I stepped into the dining room just as Mallory shifted her body to block the view. Too late. I'd already seen it. My name, my signature, my trust fund. A stack of documents sat on the edge of the buffet table, half tucked under a folded napkin. Ethan leaned over her shoulder, nodding. Mallory whispered something sharp and fast, tapping the top page with a pen. She didn't hear me come in. I didn't make a sound. Instead, I walked straight to the table, picked up a dish, set it down. "Smells good," I said. Mallory startled. "Oh, hi, Corinne. You're early." "I brought rolls," I said, handing over the bakery bag. Ethan smiled too wide. "Thanks, Mom." They were nervous. I could see it in the way they moved, the quick shuffle of papers, the forced eye contact. But neither said a word about what I'd just witnessed. They thought I hadn't seen. Or they were betting I wouldn't say anything. They were right. I sat down. Mallory poured wine like nothing had happened. Ethan asked if I wanted water with ice or no ice. I said no, thank you. My hands stayed folded in my lap. My heart didn't. He used to draw crayon dinosaurs on my tax folders. Now he was forging my name. Mallory dished out roast chicken. Said something about organic lemon brine. I nodded, chewing slow. She asked about my new neighbors. I told her they kept to themselves. No mention of the papers, no mention of the trust. The room felt padded, scripted. Every word bounced lightly off the surface. No one mentioned the elephant slumped on the sideboard with a forged signature in its trunk. They waited until dessert to steer the conversation. "So we've been thinking," Ethan began. "Maybe it's time we all streamlined things." Mallory took over. "You know how digital everything is now, passwords, accounts, backups. We'd be happy to help manage some of that just to make life easier." I smiled. "That's thoughtful." Mallory blinked, surprised. She expected resistance, not agreement. "Maybe next time we can go through some files together," Ethan added, stabbing his pie. "No pressure. Just whenever you're ready." I nodded. "We'll see." The rest of the meal moved fast after that. More wine, more laughter that didn't reach the eyes. Ethan cleared plates. Mallory boxed leftovers I didn't ask for. The fake normal was thick as the gravy she'd oversalted. When I stood to leave, Mallory handed me a foil container. Chicken and mashed. For tomorrow. I took it. Ethan kissed my cheek. "Love you, Mom." I told him I loved him too. That part was still true. It just didn't feel the same. As I walked past the sideboard, I looked again at the corner of the paperwork still peeking out beneath the napkin. My signature, but not mine. At home, I slid the container into the fridge untouched. I hung up my coat, sat down in the dark, and waited until the house stopped humming before I pulled the old binder out of the cabinet drawer. Page 5, Estate Trust, line 11. No third-party amendments without verified consent and attorney record. I circled it. Then I circled it again. Next to it, I wrote one word in pencil. Observed. The rest would come later. But for now, I sat still and listened to the quiet. I slammed the car door harder than I meant to. The porch light flicked on from the motion sensor. No wind, no sound. Just me. I dropped my purse on the counter, and something metal clinked inside. I reached in. A fork. Stainless steel with a faint smear of gravy on the handle. I must have swept it into my bag when clearing the table. I stared at it like it had teeth. Of all the things to bring home, I rinsed it under the faucet, scrubbing harder than necessary. The gravy refused to leave the seam near the base. I kept scrubbing, then stopped. Left it there wet, upside down in the sink. I poured myself a glass of water. Sat down. Didn't drink it. Their voices kept looping. Streamline things. Help manage accounts. Whenever you're ready. The paper. The signature. My name. Tilted slightly too far right. Not how I sign. Not even close. The C too round. the tail on the E missing. It looked copied. Mallory never did like handwriting anything, said it felt too analog. Always on her tablet, always tapping. Ethan used to watch me sign checks at the kitchen table, quietly, thoughtfully. I used to walk him through the bills so he'd understand money. He understood all right, just not the part about what belonged to who. I took the binder out again. Flipped to the same page. Line 11. No third-party amendments. I tapped my pen against the margin 3 times. Then opened my drawer and found the old notebook with the navy cover. The one I used back when Alan and I still went to estate meetings together. I hadn't touched it in years. Page 1 contact numbers. Alan's lawyer. Mine. The notary we used. Louise Chan. Still in Phoenix, I picked up my phone. Checked the time. Too late to call. I starred her contact anyway. I hadn't needed her in a long time. I pulled the foil container out of the fridge, opened it, and stared. The mashed potatoes had that gelatinous film on top from cooling too fast. I closed it, set it on the counter. The fork stared back at me from the sink. What else had they touched? I went to the small box where I kept my insurance copies. The original trust draft. The last amendment Alan and I signed before he passed. Everything was still there. But suddenly, that didn't feel like enough. I sat back on the couch, turned off the light, and let the dark settle. The walls creaked. The fridge clicked. The house breathed around me like it always did. Except now I didn't feel inside it. I felt watched. I reached for my phone again, opened the banking app, scanned for notifications. Nothing flagged. Yet. I closed it. Set the phone down, screen down. Maybe I'd call Louise tomorrow. Maybe I'd just review the terms again first. Maybe I'd go back and see what else they thought I wouldn't notice. Because that signature wasn't a mistake. It was a test, and they were waiting to see if I'd fail it. I stopped mid-step. Their voices filtered through the crack in the hallway door. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop. I was just looking for the extra charger Mallory said I could borrow. Her office door was open. I heard my name before I even saw them. She doesn't use email anyway, Mallory said, laughing. I stood still. She still sends checks, she added. Checks? Ethan. Who does that? She's old school, he said, like it was a compliment. Then it works in our favor. Silence. Then laughter. Shared, private, casual, like I was a joke between them. I stepped back quietly and walked to the bathroom, instead turned the faucet on to cover any sound. I didn't look at myself in the mirror, didn't want to see the expression there. Later over coffee, Mallory asked if I wanted help digitizing my bills. I told her I had it covered. She smiled and changed the subject. They thought I didn't know what PDFs were. They thought I didn't know you could backdate a form and print it to look official. They thought I was just grateful to be invited to their table. And for a while, I was. I used to think Ethan saw me, really saw me. All those years of stretching grocery money, hiding overdue notices so he wouldn't worry driving his car to the job interview when he couldn't afford gas. Staying quiet when Mallory started making suggestions about how I shouldn't stress myself with finances. Now I saw it plain they didn't see me as careful. They saw me as slow. They didn't see experience. They saw weakness. I left their house earlier than planned that day, told them I had to meet a friend for lunch. Mallory didn't even look up from her phone. Ethan walked me to the door, said, "Let us know if you need anything." I nodded, then watched his smile drop the moment he thought I wasn't looking. He was tired. Of me. Back home, I opened the drawer with my tax returns. Cross-referenced account numbers. Looked for discrepancies. Found none yet. But I did notice a folder missing from my legal box. A thin blue one with Alan's initials on the tab. I paused. Dug deeper. It wasn't missing. It had been refiled under MISC. The papers were there, but out of order. I didn't touch them, just stared, then replaced the lid and set the box back. I brewed a cup of coffee. Black. Sat by the window. Let the steam rise. She doesn't use email anyway. I used to balance a household budget down to the nickel. Tracked repairs. Negotiated with banks. Worked 2 jobs to put Ethan through school without debt. I could write a check in cursive in the dark with my eyes closed. But to them, I was a dot on the family tree. A placeholder. A soft landing. And now, apparently, a source. I stood and pulled the notebook off the shelf again. This time, I flipped past the contact list. Started a fresh page. Ethan. Financial pressure confirmed Mallory. Overconfident underestimates digital trail. Partially exposed. I underlined that last one. Twice. Then I circled tomorrow's date. Saturday. I already knew where I'd be going. I parked across the street and walked up without knocking. The spare key still worked. Ethan had asked if I could watch the kids for an hour while they ran errands. I said yes. Not because I wanted to babysit, because I needed to see something. They'd moved the bedrooms around last month, claimed they were updating the guest room. My old room. I waited until they backed out of the driveway. Mallory on her phone, Ethan waving distractedly. Then I went straight down the hall and opened the door. New paint, pale gray. The bookshelf was gone. My sewing basket, too. The framed quilt that used to hang over the dresser missing. The bed was smaller, one of those fold-out daybeds. A white noise machine sat on the side table, still blinking. The closet was empty except for hangers. I stood there a minute. The sheets looked untouched. In the corner against the wall, 3 boxes were stacked. One had my handwriting linens. The other 2 were new. Mallory's labels. Neat. Printed. Miss Old papers. Donate or toss. I opened the top one. Inside my college yearbook. Alan's baseball cap. A jewelry box with my mother's wedding ring still inside it. Photo albums. A mug Ethan gave me on his first Father's Day as a dad world's best grandma. Toss. I closed the box. I opened the second one. Bills. Recipes. Notes from Alan. My tax folder. I scanned quickly. Nothing missing. Just shuffled. Like they'd gone through it, then pushed it aside. I checked the bottom flap. Found a key taped underneath. Labeled in my writing storage locker, Gilbert Ard. They must have forgotten it was there. I pulled it loose. Slipped it into my pocket. In the hall, the kids were still napping. I poured water from the fridge. Looked out their kitchen window. Mallory had replaced my herb pots with succulents. Plastic ones. The timer on the oven beeped. I turned it off. Didn't bother with the casserole inside. On the fridge, a dry erase board listed Mallory's goals for the month. Finalize refinance paperwork. Prep backup docs for a state submit POA template. I took a picture. Close the app. When they came home, I smiled and said the kids had been angels. Mallory barely made eye contact. Ethan thanked me. Asked if I wanted to stay for dinner. I said no. I drove straight to the storage unit. Key slid in smooth. The lock clicked. I opened the door. Dust. Boxes. A few small furniture pieces. The couch from my old apartment. Alan's desk. My filing cabinet. Still intact. Still mine. I walked in, turned the light on, and checked the drawers. Third one down, copies of the living trust. The updated deed. Alan's final letter folded into a manila envelope. On top of it, a sticky note in his handwriting. Louise has originals. Keep backup here. Never sign under pressure. I didn't cry. I just sat on the edge of the desk, read the note again, and made a list of what to bring home. I spread the papers across my kitchen table before the sun was up. No coffee yet. Just paper and ink. The envelope had been sitting in my filing cabinet for months. I'd requested it after Alan died, a routine update, I told myself. But I hadn't opened it until now. The first page was a summary of the trust. My name, my address, line after line of numbers, balances, dates. All neat. all in order. The second page stopped me. A sticky note. Alan's handwriting slanted but steady. Call Louise Chan if anything looks strange. I read it twice. My thumb rubbed the corner until it bent. Alan had always been methodical, always leaving breadcrumbs. He must have known something like this might happen. I picked up the phone. Dialed Louise's number. It went to voicemail. I hung up before the beep. Not yet. I kept reading. Buried in the statements was a log of every access attempt for the past 6 months. IP addresses, times, some from my home network, others not. One stood out. 2 weeks ago. A new device. Mallory's name in the email field truncated, but visible. They hadn't just forged my signature. They'd tried to get in. I flipped back to the trust agreement Alan and I had signed. He'd insisted on the clauses no amendments without verified consent, no third-party logins without a co-trustee. It felt overcautious at the time. Now, it was a shield. I stacked the papers neatly. Took a breath. Pulled my old notebook closer. Added a new entry under yesterday's notes, unauthorized login, flagged. Alan's note, call Louise soon. I sat back. The kitchen was silent, except for the hum of the fridge. The papers lay between my elbows like a map. For a moment, I remembered the night Alan and I first talked about the trust. He'd sat at this same table, coffee mug in hand, explaining how even good kids can make bad choices when money sits waiting. You protect them from themselves, Corinne, he'd said, even if they hate you for it. I poured myself coffee now. Black. Bitter. The steam curled up past my face. I opened my laptop and logged into the bank portal tied to the trust. Same balances. Same red warning icon at the top of the screen, quietly waiting. I hovered over it, but didn't click. Not yet. I sent myself a secure copy of the statement, encrypted it, saved it to a flash drive, slipped the drive into my wallet. I could almost hear Alan's voice. Don't sign under pressure. Don't show your hand until you're ready. I closed the envelope, put it back in the folder, locked the folder in the small fireproof box under the sink. Then I opened my notebook again and wrote one last line at the bottom of the page. Saturday. Storage key. Check originals. I closed the cover, looked at the clock. There was time before the bank opened. Enough time to gather what I needed. I finished my coffee in 3 long gulps, stood up and went to find my car keys. I called Louise just after 9. She picked up on the second ring. Still the same clipped, calm voice. Corinne, been a while? I think someone tried to touch the trust. Silence. Then, tell me everything. I walked her through the papers, the login history, the note Alan left. I didn't dress it up. Just the facts. Louise asked sharp questions, took notes in the background, and told me she'd checked the security protocols on her end. Anything else strange, she asked. Mallory's been circling me like a loan officer. Ethan doesn't say much. Send me the access log. I'll run it through the audit system. In the meantime, check public property. See if they've moved assets. After we hung up, I sat down at my laptop and searched the county records. I typed in Ethan's address. One result, then a second. My stomach dipped. Second mortgage. Issued 6 months ago. New lender. High interest rate. Terms aggressive. Balloon payment clause. I read every line twice. They were bleeding money. I checked the home's value. The equity didn't match the loan. They'd borrowed more than the house was worth on paper. I pulled the document and saved a copy. Then I called the number listed for the lender, posed as a potential borrower just to learn their requirements, income thresholds, debt ratios. They specialized in high-risk clients, desperate ones. I hung up, wrote one sentence in my notebook, Ethan's house is mortgaged to the bone. I sat still. The timing lined up too perfectly, their shift in tone, the urgency. The way Mallory smiled too much when talking about shared planning. It wasn't about streamlining. It was about survival. I remembered the dry erase board on their fridge. Finalize refinance, submit POA, backup docs. They were racing towards something, some deadline I wasn't supposed to see. They'd bet on me not looking, on me saying yes, or not saying anything at all. I opened the kitchen drawer, took out the extra checkbook I kept for emergencies, tore out the top page, blank. I laid it flat on the counter and stared at it. That was what they wanted. A signature. Any signature. They didn't care what it cost me. They only cared what they could buy with it. I folded the check in half, slid it into the fireproof box beside the trust copy. Closed the lid, turned the lock. Back at the laptop, a new email popped up. Subject, trust access attempt. Flagged from Louise. Confirmed. Someone tried to access full asset data using partial credentials. No funds moved, nothing leaked. I've activated dual layer verification. Keep everything close and watch what they ask you to sign. I replied, already watching. Then I opened my folder and added a second name to the page. Mallory. Manipulator financial trigger Ethan. Overextended hiding desperation. I closed the file, pushed it aside, and stood up to pack a small bag. Just essentials. The storage unit would need another visit. I had more to check, more to move, more to seal. I brought a pie. Peach, still warm. I rang the bell and waited. Mallory answered, smile stiff. Oh, you made it. I saw the smoker in the driveway, I said. Thought I'd stop by. She stepped aside. Of course, come in. The backyard was full. Folding chairs, paper plates, someone's Bluetooth speaker playing old Motown. Ethan waved from the grill. My niece, Ivy, poured lemonade into plastic cups. No one looked surprised to see me, because no one expected me. I scanned the table names I knew, but no one had called. No invite, no heads up. Not even a last-minute swing by if you're free. Just heat laughter, and a space I no longer fit in. I placed the pie on the table. Store-bought Ivy asked already, reaching for a slice. Homemade, I said. She didn't respond. I sat at the edge of the yard near the fence out of the way. Watched them joke, clink cups, pass foil trays. Mallory whispered something to her sister. They laughed. Mallory glanced at me, once then, looked away. I stayed 20 minutes, smiled when spoken to, ate nothing. When I left, no one said goodbye. Back in my car, I sat with the engine off. No music, just breath and fabric creaking under my weight. I pulled out my phone, opened messages. Still nothing. I scrolled back. Found the last text from Ethan. 3 weeks ago. Can you watch the kids Thursday? No smiley. No thanks. Below it, a text Mallory had once sent by accident. BBQ this weekend. Sat, don't bring up money around Mom, she might get paranoid again. She never deleted it. I clicked the message info. It was part of a group chat. The inner circle members, Ethan Mallory, Ivy Mallory's sister, 2 others I didn't recognize. I tapped through. Old threads surfaced. Mallory, we have to be subtle. Say it's for joint planning. Ivy. She still thinks the house is in her name, lol. Ethan? If she pushes back, just say it's too confusing for her. I scrolled further. Found a meme. An old woman squinting at paperwork with the caption, "When Mom finds out we move the decimal." 12 likes. One from my son. I locked the phone and set it down in the console. It didn't hurt like I expected. It stung. But only where it used to matter. I drove home. Quiet roads, long shadows. Inside, I kicked off my shoes and went to the cupboard. Pulled out the pie tin I'd kept for them, washed it, dried it, put it away. Then I opened the notebook again. New entry BBQ, uninvited. Group chat confirmed. Mockery. Normalized. Trust erosion complete. I paused, then wrote, position shift no longer family, now target. I flipped to a fresh page. Drew a line down the center. Left side what they think I'll do. Right side, what I'm actually doing. I didn't fill it in yet. Just stared at the blank columns. Then I got up, poured the rest of the coffee from this morning, and sat back down to work. I got there first. Corner table. Small cafe near downtown. One barista. No music. Perfect. Mallory arrived 10 minutes late, sunglasses still on. No apology. Hope you didn't wait long, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I didn't answer. Just pushed her latte toward her. Almond milk, no sugar. She liked things clean on the surface. I thought it'd be good to check in, I said. She smiled, polite, but empty. Of course. I pulled out my notebook, the small one I kept in my bag. I've been reviewing a few things. Estate planning account access just to make sure everything stays clear. Her eyes flicked to the notebook. Right. Well, we've got things pretty streamlined. Even better, I said, smiling. I'd be happy to go through anything, help out. Budgeting file organization Ethan used to hate that stuff growing up. She laughed lightly. He still does. I nodded. Old habits. She took a sip of her drink. Honestly, we might just move everything under Ethan's name. For simplicity. She said it like she was ordering toast. I blinked. Everything. She tilted her head. Just the active stuff. Nothing major. I mean, let's be real, you're not going to be logging into online accounts every day. I smiled. She kept going. It's easier if he manages the recurring transfers, the reporting. It just keeps things centralized. I wrote something in the notebook. Not words. Just a small star in the margin. I trust you've got it covered, I said. She leaned back. Of course. I waited. Let the silence stretch. Ethan mentioned maybe reviewing some of the documents, she said casually. Just to avoid confusion later, we could even draft something simple. Power of attorney, or maybe a joint authorization form. I nodded. That would help with clarity. She smiled wider, mistaking agreement for surrender. Good, she said. We'll work on a draft and bring it by. She tapped her cup. Thanks for meeting. I know this stuff stresses you out. It doesn't, I said. She blinked. What I said, it doesn't stress me out. Her smile tightened, then returned. Okay. Well, good. She stood, adjusted her coat. Let us know if you need anything. I watched her leave, no rush in her step, certain she'd just pulled off something smooth. I stayed, finished my coffee, then opened my phone. Emailed Louise. Subject today's conversation. Message Mallory mentioned transferring account control. Drafts coming. I said nothing. Attached the timestamp, location, and notes. Then I opened my notebook again. Wrote Mallory. Preparing soft takeover language. Chicas casual execution. Chicas calculated POA. Chica priority defense. I flipped back to the previous page. Left column. What they think I'll do? Right column. What I'm actually doing. Under the right column, I finally wrote my first entry. Recording everything. I pulled the first red folder from the drawer and laid it flat on the table. Bank access logs. Printed. Highlighted. Every failed login attempt from a new device. Each timestamp underlined. Second folder, inheritance paperwork. Alan's original trust draft notarized. The final amendment. Dates. Signatures. Witness copies. I sorted them. Removed duplicates, scanned the most critical pages. Saved them to the encrypted drive in my wallet. Then uploaded backups to a hidden cloud folder Louise had helped me set up last year. Third folder, notes from conversations, handwritten, then typed. Each labeled with the time, date, and location. Mallory Cafe, re-POA comment, Ethan text, re-simplified finances. BBQ, overheard group chat reference. I plugged in the small voice recorder next. The one I'd started carrying in my coat pocket. Nothing fancy, just enough to capture tone, hesitation, pressure. I reviewed a few clips, fast-forwarded through pleasantries. Then I heard her. We'll just print it and slip it in with the mail. If she signs it, done. Mallory, clear as glass. Another file, Ethan muttering about bills about timelines. If this doesn't go through by Q2, I don't know how we're covering July. He said it like he was alone. He wasn't. I copied both files. Labeled. Dated. Stored. Then I picked up the burner phone I'd bought 2 weeks ago at the strip mall. Prepaid. Clean. Loaded with one number, Louise's private line. I texted contingency folder finalized. 2x backups made. Safety net built. Will drop physical copy with you Monday. No reply yet. She'd see it. In the kitchen, I pulled out the manila envelope Alan had left in the storage unit, slid it into a plain canvas tote, added a USB, the recorder, and a flash drive. I placed the tote by the door, ready to go. Then I sat back down and wrote in the notebook, red folder, full cloud vault, your synced audio evidence, viable. I added a final line, no confrontation. Only exposure. I drank cold coffee straight from the mug. My heart beat steady. No more guessing, no more waiting. If they pushed again, I'd be ready, not to argue, to show. The alert hit at 6:42 p.m. I was folding laundry. The phone buzzed once, then again. Red icon. Pre-set signal. I answered on the second ring. Louise didn't waste time. They tried it. From where an IP tied to Mallory's business account. She logged into the mirror portal, attempted to transfer $300,000 from the decoy account. Exactly. I smiled. Let them keep trying. Louise exhaled. You want to escalate? Not yet. I hung up, folded the last towel, placed it on the stack, walked to the kitchen. Mallory thought she'd found the back door. Weeks ago, I'd worked with Louise to create a replica account. Clean design, matching balances, a tempting shell. We named it Legacy Management, just enough professionalism to pass her sniff test. Left it floating just under the surface of a shared drive Mallory had glanced at once, pretending not to look. The bait was perfect. The moment she logged in, the system tagged her. Screen capture, timestamp, metadata. She tried twice. Failed both times. Used Ethan's name once, her own the second. Sloppy. Louise had set the alert to push straight to my phone. In the notebook, I turned to the section marked Triggers. First line, decoy transfer attempt. Reconfirmed intent. Second line. If they push again, authorize release of packet. I poured a fresh cup of coffee, opened the storage cabinet, checked the file again. Everything was aligned. The trust was untouched. The real account locked. The backup copies secured with Louise. The only place left for Mallory to reach was the one we'd built to catch her. I pulled out the envelope Alan left, read his note again. If they come for this, they've already crossed the line. They had. I went back to the table, took out my phone. Typed one message, Mallory, just a heads up, looks like someone tried to move funds through the wrong portal. Let me know if you're aware of anything. See sent. No reply. I waited. 10 minutes later, she texted back. Weird. No idea what that's about. I'll check with Ethan. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my secure folder and renamed one of the files Evidence Packet, Release Pending. Then I sat down and wrote the next step in my notebook. Climax phase, begin countdown. I parked 2 blocks away and walked in. No makeup, no jewelry, just a plain jacket, my file folder, and a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. The county recorder's office was quiet. A young clerk at the window asked if I had an appointment. I said yes. She scanned my documents, glanced at the names, the trust language. Didn't say much, just pointed me to the notary line. I stood, waited, watched the seal press down on the page like a stamp of finality. The deed was no longer in my name. It belonged to a private trust, now one Louise and I restructured quietly months ago. Today, I made it real. The property, the land, the structure locked. Ethan and Mallory's names didn't appear anywhere. The new language barred claims through family ties. No inheritance rights. No contingent ownership. No room for interpretation. I initialed the margins, signed the bottom, nodded to the notary, paid the fee in cash. They handed me the receipt. I didn't smile. Outside, the wind hit different. I walked slow, the final copy tucked in my coat. I stopped by the mailbox. Near the corner, slid a copy into the envelope addressed to Louise. Certified. Tracked. Then I kept walking. At home, I scanned the final pages, saved them to my encrypted folder, filed a backup in the fireproof box. I made a note in the notebook. Home deed, Schachter transferred trust language, sure airtight access. Exclusive to self plus legal trustee. I looked around the kitchen. The floor I'd scrubbed for years, the cabinet Ethan built in college, the coffee mugs from Alan's retirement party. Everything looked the same. But it wasn't. This house was mine again. Not shared. Not promised. Not borrowed by someone else's ambition. No just-in-case clauses. No eventual transfer nonsense. They'd stood in this kitchen, asked me to trust them. I did once. Now I trusted paper. The filing timestamp hit my inbox at 3:17 p.m. Official, recorded, public. I closed the email, picked up my mug, took a long sip, bitter sharp, no cream. Just how Alan used to make it. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop, labeled it Assets Secured, First File Deed, Next Step the Accounts. I arrived 5 minutes early. Mallory waved from a patio table, all teeth and sunglasses. Her friends were already there, 3 women I barely knew, all polished, loud dripping with pretend charm. Mom, she called. Come sit. They'd already ordered mimosas. A 4th glass appeared as I sat down. Small talk. Skin routines. Renovation tips. One of them was remodeling a home office for her side hustle, which turned out to be reselling scented candles online. Mallory kept glancing at her phone, then back at me. You look great, she said. Voice too high. That sweater's new, no, I said. She laughed like I'd told a joke. The server brought avocado toast chia bowls, eggs poached too perfectly. I pushed my food around the plate. Then she struck. So I wanted to ask you something. Mallory said casually. Too casually. Just a little housekeeping thing. Her friends sipped. Went silent. Mallory pulled a folder from her oversized bag. Since we've been trying to keep everything organized, I talked with a friend who does financial planning. She recommended having a backup authorization in place. You know, in case something happens. She slid the folder toward me. Nothing major. Just a simple form that lets Ethan access trust decisions if you're like in surgery, or traveling, or unavailable. I looked at the folder, didn't open it. Just as a backup, she said again. Totally non-binding, reversible, safe. Her friends nodded along like they understood any of it. I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip. Let me take it home, I said. I'll read it carefully. Mallory hesitated, then smiled again. Of course, no rush. We just thought it'd help with efficiency. I tucked the folder into my purse. The rest of the brunch dragged. Mallory steered the conversation toward travel, pretending to include me in future plans I'd never be invited to. When the check came, she paid. A small gesture to mask a large ask. On the drive home, I didn't turn on the radio. Just listened to the sound of tires and thought about how calm she'd been. How rehearsed. I parked. Sat in the driveway for a while. Then I opened the folder. The form was crisp. Pre-filled. My name typed in all the right places. All they needed was a signature. No lawyer listed, no witness line, just a space at the bottom waiting. I didn't sign. I pulled out my notebook. Brunch request, backup authorization. Disguised POA language, vague but broad. Risk high. I snapped a photo of the form. Sent it to Louise. Subject Mallory's ask. Presented as non-binding, seems otherwise. Then I added to the notebook. Mallory and I escalated tactics. Next step. Confirm legal trap. I put the form back in the folder. Set it beside the red binder on the kitchen counter. Alan's voice rang again in my head. They won't stop until the word no costs them something. I poured myself another cup of coffee and opened the laptop. I laid the papers out on the table like a student cramming for a test. Mallory sat across from me, printer humming in the background. Ethan hovered near the doorway, trying to look casual. I keep mixing these up, I said, sliding 2 folders toward her. Is this the bank authorization or the tax update? Mallory smiled, patient. That's the bank one. Here, let me print you a clean copy. It's easier to read. She disappeared into the office. The sound of paper feeding into the tray carried down the hall. Ethan stepped closer. You've been so open-minded lately, Mom, he said. I know this stuff can be confusing. I looked up, kept my expression soft. It is a lot. You're doing great, he said. Mallory says you're making it easy. He meant it. He actually believed I was making it easy. Mallory came back with the printouts. Here we go. She set them down, aligning the edges like a deck of cards. Fresh copies. No clutter. I picked one up, squinting at the header. So, this one just lets you help me pay bills right. Exactly, she said. Only if you want. I nodded, laid it back down. Good to know. Mallory reached for a pen. We can fill it out now if you're ready. I think I'll review it tonight, I said. My eyes aren't what they used to be. She hesitated, then smiled again. Of course. No rush. Ethan squeezed my shoulder. See? This is so much smoother than I expected. Mallory stacked the papers neatly. We'll leave them here. You can look whenever. They both relaxed at once, the tension draining from their faces. Ethan leaned against the counter, joking about the weather. Mallory scrolled her phone. They thought the hard part was over. I poured coffee. The sound of it hitting the mug filled the room. They talked about refinancing, about travel, about big plans for summer. I nodded at the right times, smiled at the right jokes. Kept my hands folded in my lap. Inside, I counted down. Mallory gathered her bag. We'll let you get some rest. Thanks for explaining everything I said. Any time, she said, slipping on her coat. We just want what's best. Ethan kissed my cheek. Love you, Mom. I shut the door behind them. The house went quiet. I walked back to the table, picked up the clean copy, turned it over. Mallory's printer had left a faint watermark on the back corner, her company's logo. The same one tied to the IP address from the decoy account. I set it down next to the other evidence. Added a note to the notebook. Phase 2 complete. They believe compliance. I poured the last of the coffee into my mug, drank it cold, and reached for the envelope Alan had left, sliding the new printout inside with the rest. I handed out napkins, poured juice, tied a balloon to the fence post when the wind snapped it loose. Mallory stood at the center of the yard, camera-ready, lips painted. Ethan carried the cake like it weighed something more than sugar. The kids yelled for presents. Someone passed a gift bag to me. For you, Mallory chirped. Just a little thank you. I pulled out the tissue paper. A wooden frame. Thick glass. One of those family collage styles. Multiple photos arranged like a memory tree. Only I wasn't on it. Top row, Ethan and Mallory on their wedding day. Middle vacation, school concerts, baby showers. Bottom, Ethan with the kids. Mallory with the kids, Mallory's mother holding the youngest. No me. Not even once. I blinked. Is this the final version? Mallory leaned over my shoulder. Oh yeah. Isn't it cute? I studied the empty corners. I'm not in any of these. She laughed. We couldn't find one where you looked happy. I looked up. She was already walking away. I set the frame on the patio table. Said nothing. The kids ran past, chasing bubbles. Ivy snapped a photo of the cake, angling it just right for her story. I sat, watched the scene like a guest at someone else's life. Later, when Mallory passed around thank you boxes, homemade cookies tied with gold ribbon, I handed mine back. "Oh," she said, surprised. "You don't want it? I'm good?" Ethan noticed. "Came over? Is something wrong?" "Not at all," I said. "Beautiful party." He nodded, then glanced at the frame. "Mallory put a lot of work into that. I can tell. We didn't mean anything by it. You don't have to explain." He paused. "You sure I stood?" "Completely." I left early. Back home, I took out the binder, added one more page, birthday party omission complete. Framed narrative, YNARB, intentional. I clicked the lock on the binder shut. Quiet. Final. Then I opened the drawer and pulled out the packet. The one Louise hadn't seen yet. It was time. I set my phone face up on the table before anyone said a word. Ethan noticed. His eyes darted to the screen. The red alert pulsed quietly. No sound. Just presence. Mallory placed a folder beside the breadbasket. "We thought it'd be helpful to simplify things," she said. Ethan cleared his throat. "Just a few signatures. Nothing binding, just to keep things moving." I nodded. Didn't reach for the pen. The waiter brought water. No one touched it. Mallory opened the folder. "It's basically a backup, a safety net. You'd still be in full control." I picked up the first page, held it without reading. "So, this is for my benefit." "Of course," Mallory said. Ethan leaned forward. "We're just trying to protect what's yours." My phone vibrated once, still glowing red. I pushed the paper back toward them. "You triggered it," I said. Mallory froze. "What?" I tilted the phone so they could both see. "Fraud alert. Bank system logged 2 unauthorized access attempts. Your laptop. Your credentials." Ethan blinked. "That can't be right." "I didn't trigger it," I said. "You did." Silence. Mallory reached for her water. Missed. "I was trying to check balances," she muttered. "You used Ethan's name. Then your own." Ethan looked at her, then me. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," I said. "This is documentation." I slid a second phone from my bag. Burned to one contact. "Louise." "She has the packet," I said. "Every login attempt, every form you tried to substitute, every word you recorded around me." Mallory's voice cracked. "You were spying. You were stealing." Ethan put his hands on the table. "Mom, I'm not signing anything I said. Ever." Mallory's mouth opened then shut. "The house is gone," I added. "Transferred. So are the accounts. Irrevocable. Legally sound. Filed." Mallory whispered something under her breath. I didn't ask her to repeat it. Ethan looked stunned. "Why would you do that?" "To see who tried to take it." I picked up my napkin, folded it once, set it beside the plate. "You thought I'd just keep baking pies while you drained me." I was helping, Mallory hissed. "No. You were rehearsing." The waiter returned, asking if we needed more time. "No," I said. "We're done here." Mallory stood first, knocking her chair back. Ethan stayed seated, mouth tight, face gray. I rose, picked up the phone. The alert was still there, blinking like a warning light. I left the papers, left the water, left the meal untouched, walked to the door without turning back. Tomorrow, they'd see what else Louise had filed. But tonight, I just wanted quiet. I walked back into their house like I owned nothing and everything at once. The kitchen was too bright, the air too still, no music, no smell of food, just silence and a table that had already seen too much. Ethan sat first, shoulders hunched. Mallory stood behind him, arms crossed, chewing her lip like it helped her think. I didn't sit. I placed the envelope on the center of the table, thick, sealed, handwritten. Ethan and Mallory. No further access. Mallory didn't move. Ethan glanced up. "What is this?" "You'll open it later," I said. "I think we deserve." "No," I cut in. "You don't." He blinked like the room had shifted and he hadn't caught it. "You forged my name." I said calmly. You accessed a decoy account tied to federal oversight. You attempted transfer without consent. You drafted forms and lied to my face. Then you wrapped it all in brunch and family photos and called it care. Mallory stepped forward. You're twisting this. No, I said again. I'm clarifying it. I pulled out the chair but didn't sit. Just rested my hands on the back. Everything is filed. Trust deed alerts, audits. What you saw was what I wanted you to see. The real accounts were never vulnerable. Not for a second. Ethan looked down at the table. Mallory's jaw clenched. You tricked us. No, I said. You underestimated me. The silence hit again. Heavy. Bare. I brought one more thing I said, reaching into my coat. A photo. The one from the birthday party. The frame they gave me. I'd reprinted it. This time I marked it. I slid the photo across the table, now scribbled in red ink, an X through the corners where I should have been. You erased me first. Ethan winced. Mallory looked away. I reached for my coffee, took a sip, set the mug down without finishing. You'll want to read the letter, I said, nodding at the envelope. It lists exactly what you no longer have access to. Which accounts, which properties, which options are now permanently closed. I looked at Ethan, then Mallory. Neither could hold my gaze. You'll get nothing more from me, I said. Then I turned and walked out, leaving the coffee warm, the chairs cold, and the two of them facing nothing but their own reflections. The first call came before breakfast. Unknown number. Straight to voicemail. The second call came from Ethan's cell. I let it ring. By the third, Mallory's name flashed. I answered. You can't do this, she hissed. You can't just lock us out. I didn't lock you out, I said. You were never in. She started to shout. I hung up. Minutes later, a text from Ethan. We're meeting a lawyer today. You'll be hearing from us. I sent nothing back. By noon, Louise emailed me a scan of a demand letter. 4 pages. Full of words like undue influence and breach of fiduciary duty, signed by some downtown attorney with a reputation for intimidation. Louise's reply was already attached below it. Calm. Precise. She'd sent certified copies of every document, trust amendments, notarized deeds, time-stamped transfers. Each page initialed by me and witnessed months before. No loopholes, no weak spots. Her final paragraph was a brick. Any further harassment of my client regarding property or accounts under this trust will be treated as intentional interference and referred to the county's fraud division. I read it twice, then closed the laptop. The phone buzzed again. Mallory this time. I let it go. Voicemail popped up. You'll regret this. We'll go public. People will know what you did. I deleted it. Outside. The sun hit hard on the patio. I sat with my coffee, the envelope of evidence beside me. For the first time in weeks, my hands didn't shake. They'd underestimated me, and now they were flailing. Louise texted a follow-up car title retitled, No Cosigners. All assets secure. Nothing left for them to touch. I exhaled slowly. The last thread had been the car, a small hybrid I'd co-signed for Ethan years ago. Louise had pulled it clean out of my liability. The title now bore only my name. They couldn't seize it. They couldn't even drive it without my permission. I went back inside and opened my notebook, added a new line under Phase 2 counterattack neutralized. Assets shielded. Threat, noise. I drew a line across the page. Underneath it, I wrote, Next phase exposure. I closed the book, slid it under the fireproof box, and walked to the front door. Across the street, the same delivery van that had been parked near their house yesterday now sat idling. Someone inside, holding a phone window, cracked. Watching. I shut the door, locked it. Time to move. I unplugged the landline, turned the cell to silent, moved it to the drawer. No more rings, no buzz, no apologies I didn't believe or threats I didn't fear. The house was quiet now, but not empty. I made coffee, sat at the same kitchen table where Ethan once begged for college tuition, same spot where Mallory flipped through catalogs for nursery furniture I paid for. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat. Voicemails blinked in red across the screen. I tapped each one. Deleted. Not one played. Mid-afternoon, I swept the back hallway, found an old toy truck lodged behind the coat rack. I picked it up, brushed off the dust, set it on the shelf. No need to throw it out, but no need to hand it back either. Someone asked at the market Mrs. Landry from 2 streets over. "Haven't seen Ethan lately?" she said, bagging her spinach. "They're busy," I replied. She nodded. Didn't push. I walked home. The mailbox was light now. No more shared bills. No more legal threats. Just my name. Just mine. Inside, I flipped through the kitchen calendar. Crossed out the next family BBQ. Wrote nothing in its place. The silence wasn't empty. It was earned. The living room stayed untouched for days. No visitors. No dropped-in grandkids. No passive-aggressive casseroles from Mallory with notes about sodium content. I put fresh batteries in the smoke detector, rearranged the bookshelves, replaced the bulb in the porch light. Routine returned like a friend I hadn't seen in years. That night, I sat by the window with a cup of black coffee. No sugar, no cream, just steam and a clean line between who I'd been and who I wasn't anymore. The phone in the drawer blinked once. A new number. I didn't check it. Instead, I looked around my home mine again and opened the last drawer in the hallway chest. The one with Alan's old keys. The originals. Not copied. Not shared. I picked them up. Cold in my palm. The locks were changing tomorrow. I sealed the envelope with firm hands. Inside the original forged signature, copied on Ethan's home printer, Mallory's handwriting in the margins. I'd circled it in red ink. A note, paper-clipped to the front, for records. No response needed. C. I drove to the post office. No line. I slid the envelope across the counter. Certified. Tracked. Filed away in Louise's archive where it would sit like a loaded weapon no one would dare draw. I didn't wait for the receipt. The bank was just down the street. I parked, walked in, didn't smile at the greeter. At the counter, I handed over my ID. "I'd like to close an account." The young teller tapped her keyboard. "Which one, ma'am?" I slid the slip across the desk. "The decoy." She nodded. Typed. "Balance is 1.03, she said. "Would you like cash or transfer?" "Neither," I said. She blinked. "So? Leave it. Close it anyway." She hesitated, then clicked. A few more keystrokes, then a soft beep. "It's done," she said. "That account no longer exists." "Perfect," I said. She offered me a receipt. I waved it away. I walked out without looking back. The door shut behind me like punctuation. The sun hit hard on the sidewalk. I didn't squint. Back in the car, I sat for a moment. Not tired, just still. That account had lived through months of manipulation, served as bait, held nothing but echoes and a final decoy dollar. And now it was gone. Dead weight cut loose. At home, I opened the drawer one last time. Red folders marked. Notes finalized. Copies filed. The game they thought they were playing done. I locked the drawer, turned off the light, and made coffee. I filled the kettle, waited for the boil. No footsteps above, no hallway noise, no one asking for anything. Just steam rising and a quiet so thick I could hold it. The mug waited by the sink. Chipped along the handle, glaze worn at the rim. I turned it in my hand. 3 faded words, still clear. Still the mother. I poured the coffee. No sugar. No cream. Just the way I liked it before they told me to cut back. Before the doctor visits Mallory never showed up for. Before the bills they offered to manage. I carried the mug to the window. Sat in the chair Alan refinished the year Ethan was born. the arm still scratched where a Lego once dug in. Outside, the morning came slow. Honest light. No makeup. No edits. The neighbor's dog barked. A paper hit a porch. Somewhere someone opened blinds. I didn't. I didn't scroll, didn't post, didn't explain. The house was still. Mine again. No Mallory, no Ethan, no group chats, no financial talks over food. The last voicemail had come 4 days ago. Ethan's voice. Flat. Practiced. He'd said he needed time to process. That they were hurt. That maybe one day we could revisit things. I hadn't replied. Some endings don't need a response. I sipped the coffee. Across the table, the binder sat closed. No longer near the phone. No longer on alert. I'd given enough. Now I chose what stayed. The rug under my feet. The drawer that closed without sticking. The chair that creaked just slightly when I shifted. The stillness. I took another sip. Somewhere behind me, the mail slot opened. A soft thud. I didn't move. Not yet. Not this morning. I watched the street. Watched the world turn without asking anything from me. And I let it.